Well, before we start,
Yeah.
I'd better introduce people because you won't know. You may or may not know who they are. From the end, I'm going from end to front, is Mr. John Sidwick. I'm not sure how he likes to be known these days, but the official title is co-founder stroke owner of Blue Touch Paper, which is a strategy consultancy. Good afternoon, sir. Next door to him is the venerable Mr. Jason Cremins, who is a very different job title now, Chief Product Officer of Navori Labs. Have I spelled that correctly? He's formerly founder of Signage Alive, which he sold to Navori in August. We'll be in the south of France by now, having a wild time. What are you doing here in Ascot? I'd have buggered off somewhere with all that, man. Anyway. Next door to him is Dan Root, who is Global Vice President of Sales and Partnerships at NetSpeak, which you may not have heard of NetSpeak. It's a next generation AV-IT operations platform, which is the simplest I could perhaps say. We'll go into all that later. And at the end, last but not by no means least, is Nick Fagan, who is Head of Innovation at DRPG, which is a creative consultancy. He's got a fascinating job. Amazing what he's done with AI for the creative world. So it's certainly worth listening to and everything else. But the problem we've got with AI is it's just so many people are talking about it. What the hell is it? How relevant is it for the AI world, for the AV world? What should we be doing with it? And so hopefully within this session we can touch on a few things. We're not going to answer all the questions. But I thought before we started I'd sort of throw a few questions out to the audience and ask you, is AI new to you? Are you working with it? Do you employ AI experts? Are you reorganizing your IT departments to accommodate AI? And are you worried about AI skills with everything? I don't know how much knowledge there is about AI in the audience here, whether you're end user buyers, whether you're from the industry or whatever. So, I mean, you put your hands up if you're from the industry, generally speaking. So, okay, any end user customers here who are thinking of buying the stuff? Interesting. That says a lot, doesn't it? You're supposed to all be end users, by the way. Not that I've ever met one. Oh, I have, but I don't talk about it. So it's interesting. Where do you start? I suppose we could go and start from the beginning, which is, what role is AI playing in AV? And we could start with anybody here, really. So I think, we'll start with you, Dan, actually, if you don't mind me saying so, and start off. Now, don't go too much about it, because I know you can.
I will try to keep it short. If I get nonsensical, I apologize. I flew a red eye and got here this morning, so please bear with me. But AI within AV really is AV devices and control has been very structured in the sense that it's if this, then that type logic to be able to create an experience within the room. The challenge with that is it's very rigid. And if you come at it out of order or in a situation it's not anticipating, it can really falter to be able to accommodate a different entry point. And so the way that AI is breaking down some barriers within AV is that one, AI can be applied in an approach to create an ingest agent that reads something, understands that, and then builds off of it. So you could create something that could build an API for a connector using software only, whereas today there's a fair amount of work that goes in on the human side to build those sorts of API connectors and things. So AI within AV is going to bring down some of the barriers between the walled gardens that we have that are out there and help to bridge those gaps, because it's able to think a little bit more flexibly. It's able to be more of an engine, a decision engine, instead of being a if this, then that logic. What it means is, for the real world, when you walk into a room and somebody happens to have been there before you, played around with a few things, changed an input, did whatever they needed to do, the AI is able to think in real time and go, okay, this is where the room is configured. I need to switch the TV to get it back to the Zoom room, and I need to make sure that the volume is where it needs to be so that everyone in the room can hear. okay, make those small adjustments versus let me completely shut down the entire room, spin everything back up so that I can reset the room in the state that I want. And so really it just gives us more flexibility, more possibilities with less effort, I would say is the end result.
Okay, well, that's a good summary, in fact, Dan. Is AI something that we'll see more of in basic functionality? I mean, Jason, for you, I mean, digital signage now is such a complex environment. My God, where do you start?
Yeah, no, exactly.
AI and digital signage must be a gift from heaven, sure to God.
It is, and I think there's different aspects to it. I think the core area of focus from a Navori Labs Group perspective is firstly combining those data points that are being obtained at the point of view in digital signage, or the points of interaction, and actually using that information to profile media and ensure that the correct media is being played back at the right time. So I think, whether that be traditional audience metrics, whether it be store data, but AI gives you so much power in terms of actually analysing that data and determining what can be done next. I think the other aspect of what we're looking at as well, in particular with the core focus being on operators who are rolling big estates of digital signage, is really the proactive monitoring and maintenance. So the information that can be gathered and analysed to allow big operations or big digital signage networks to be managed by exception. Because if you're running a big network, you just want to know that a particular thing is not working how you expected it to, and AI plays a huge role in that.
So monitoring and maintenance is coming out right.
Monitoring and maintenance, and also
thing, isn't it?
And also when it comes to playlist management, content management, understanding what a particular piece of media and the capabilities are, and that it will or won't run on a particular device. All of those things now can be filtered through AI to prevent the problem before it happens. Okay.
Inevitably, I'm going to say this. I mean, every time we talk about AI in the general world, it's always someone changed a picture or double something. And then the creative world, which you're from.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, a lot's happening. A lot more than I thought was happening, actually.
Yeah, it's massive. I mean, probably the largest scale activation that was drastically affected by AI for us was actually a year ago, October 2024, Germany. We launched a vehicle on a barge, large LED screen, and there was lots of beautiful content made, right? Creative directors determined what great content in the automotive industry looked like for the advert of this car. We played that advert to an audience prior to revealing the actual car itself on the stand. I use camera-based analysis, which is 4K web cameras looking at people to take measurements of their face, right, and determine actually what emotion were they micro-expressing. So every 300 milliseconds, measure up to 35 different emotions on people. Now, this isn't AI yet, actually. That is just an if this then that, right? An actual measurement that means something. The difference is, once we have that data, what AI enabled us to do was to say, well, if somebody's got a 38.7% indifference and a 28% elation to the content they're seeing, what the hell does that mean? Because I couldn't tell you. But actually, based on the science and a long-term learning and understanding the human psyche, AI could interpret the data to make it make sense and literally provide us with different outputs that equated in a hotkey being hit, right? By which I mean content on the screen was switched based on what the audience in front of the camera liked to see the most. So we did a live edit, a play out and a live cut of the content based on what the camera saw, and AI determined the correct output to be. What it actually meant was, because when I heard all of that, I was like, okay, that's great. I'm not sure how effective it's going to be. We were able to give an over 60% increase in dwell time instantly when we played the versus the pre-recorded edit that a creative director thought was awesome versus the AI edit. When we played the AI stitched together content, people stayed on the stand for a further 62% total time, Clive. So as a real result, and AI was the translation between those measurements and what mattered. Does that make sense?
It does. It makes eminent sense. I'm looking at operational and performance monitoring here and everything else. John, I mean, you've talked to the end user world, you've done a lot of research on all this. What signs are coming, what sort of reactions come from the market about potentially their perception of AI? And B, has it spouted any sort of interest in what they might like to do with it? Anything concrete evidence we've got?
Well, I think what you're hearing from these guys is great user case scenarios of why AI is going to be so powerful in platforms. What we're hearing from the channel, though, is this is a fundamental shift in the market. If you think at a higher level, What these guys are saying is the market is moving from a kind of product, brand, feature, specification, kind of CapEx type model, how we've sold things for the last 30 or 40 years, to a data-driven, platform-based, application-based, AI-interpreted model. And that's dramatically going to change everybody's business in this room, fundamentally. So straight away, anything that you do, anything you sell, will have the capability of being able to monitor it, manage it, but also measure it. Finally, end users can measure the impact of what we deliver as a channel. That's fundamental. In terms of experience and how experience will be supercharged, we're not just talking AV. 10 years ago, we were worried about AV and IT and having that conversation. Then it became AV, IT, and UC. We're now talking about one continuum of how companies will want to work with us, the suppliers and vendors in the channel. And what we're finding, but Blue Touch Paper, we do a lot of market research, and the market research is telling us that from a reseller perspective, we speak to globally hundreds of resellers. Resellers are working out, how do I move from a meeting room-centric environment into voice, into management, into data management and data reporting? And that's into a market which is basically moving from a CapEx model to an OpEx model with deliverables that are scalable. It's going to be fundamental, Clive. A year's time, it's going to be quick. In a year's time, we'll be having different conversations to the conversations we're having now.
Yeah, well, you put your finger on there by talking about service management. Because AV services is, it's something we think we all have to, we are moving to. But it's how you quantify that and actually create measurables within service management. And this is a key element of the technology you feel is going to make a major difference for that.
Yeah, I mean, we used to design great, complicated products that were so good that you used to have to sell a big maintenance pack or even put somebody on site just to look after these products. You hear from the situation, particularly with Dan's companies evolving, that's going to move into an AI, data-driven, hands-off solution set. So companies are going to have to think how they service differently. From an end-user perspective, it's superb. End-user levels of experience are going to be elevated to a level that we've never thought of. You heard from Nick, and you've heard from also what Jason's saying. The ability for you guys in the channel to deliver such more feature-rich experience. By the way, none of this is going to mean the AV channel is dead. What it does mean is the AV channel can do so much more and deliver so much more.
What changes are we going to see in the AV channel? It's really tough to hear you. It's tough to hear me, is it? I don't know how to do it, really.
Do you want to just take the handheld?
Don't put that next to the lapel. That close is going to create an issue.
Okay, I'll switch this off.
Clive, either that or just yell into it. Just give us the booming voice. You got it.
They've got me cheating. Is that all right? Can you hear me from the back?
Okay.
Well, so thanks for saying that. I mean, it's it's tough watching the lips these days, I have to say. Because that's the thing, whether you're end user or a thing, but always sort the channel really, because how do you sell it? Where do the skills come from that you feel you need to have to be able to put things through? That must be a really difficult one, mustn't it?
Within the AV market, channel, MSPs, sort of an area, you're seeing a lot more crossover. Almost everybody that's in the channel now has some sort of day two services included somewhere in their offering. What you're going to see with AI is that AI can come up alongside a channel player or alongside an MSP and add value to that end customer by being able to jump in and handle a situation remotely at any given time. It makes it a lot easier for the end customer. The fact that AI is going through and helping that along at every single turn allows for the end customer to feel like they're being monitored correctly, have the right amount of uptime, and that their partner in the channel or their services provider that goes along with the hardware is always in tune or versed on exactly what the solutions are that I have in my offices. So I actually think you're going to see that gap close up a bit over the next couple of years, because that information, the data that's going from those devices is easier to be understood by some of the other layers that are within the stack. So I actually think you're going to see a lot of the channel players get a little closer to their end customers and trying to drive that closer relationship of we give you insights into how to be a better business, and that's where we're going to derive our value over the next 5 to 10 years versus hanging displays and plugging cables in, which I think over the next 5 to 10 years is going to become pretty commoditized in the sense I can send in a level 1 person and through things like Ray-Bans right here on Nick's face or some of the others that are out there, AI is going to be able to come up alongside those people and help them go through a more complicated install without them having to take the time to become a level 3 engineer.
So are we talking about AI type of componentry within the box that's going to make basic functionality more efficient? Or are we talking about separate monitoring environments that use the box?
In both cases, essentially what you're going to have...
analysis with it.
Yeah, you're going to have certain things that are within a product itself. So for instance, Microsoft Teams has a great meeting facilitator, and that facilitation agent is doing certain things for your team and is very knowledgeable about the documents and about your project because it's tied into that. If you tried asking your facilitator agent to do something having to do with the physical room, the facilitator has no idea how to incorporate or deal with that because it's very meeting-based context. So you need a slightly different agent context to be able to drive what you're trying to do in-room or hardware-related versus potentially a workflow. So there's going to be workflow-specific solutions, I think, is what I'm trying to get to.
I mean, Jason, it's something that's going to transform digital signage, isn't it? I mean, it's a complex environment. When I used to write about IT years ago, the first time I came to AV, I thought, telly on a network, didn't understand what digital signage was, know what it was called, really. I thought, well, that thing on the network could be so many things. And then suddenly analysis came through with different software. I thought, well, is this piece of stuff connected to the back-end systems? Oh, no, it's just there as a front end, this, that, and the other. So the potential was always there, wasn't it, in a sense? In fact, some of the white heat front end of AI is probably going to be hitting first through digital signage.
Yeah, I think so. I think some of the key areas from our point of view is there's a big move towards automated content as well, using AI as part of that, and data integration with back-end systems where organisations no longer want to get in the way is kind of removing the friction of having to create repeated content, but doing that in a highly effective way that can generate not just HTML5 templates of content, but full motion graphic video, broadcast quality content on the fly, like Nick was mentioning, obviously, in terms of the live edits. That's now coming into the signage world from our point of view. And I think the other thing that we're looking at as well is the whole concept, and we've always had this from a Signage Live point of view, of completely headless operations. Now, where that starts to come to bear without getting too technical is APIs have always existed, but now we're moving to a world of multi-context protocol, so MCP. So that means that you can now connect your digital signage network to ChatGPT or to Claude or to any other platform and interrogate it and create dashboards, create reports, and actually influence content through an AI interface as well, very easily.
So again, two levels. The complexity of interconnectivity is going to be probably an AI master application sort of thing at the basic level in infrastructure. And the analysis that comes from that, how that will be set up, I don't know. Is there any sort of monitoring console? Is there any kind of centralized environment that's going to be created on top of that? Bit like what's the word I'm trying to think of? Like they used to do in the old days by monitoring independent environments with a performance. I can't remember the name now. That sat on top of it all.
So
how different platforms are operating.
I think it depends, specific to the market that I'm in right now, which is around AV orchestration. We want to orchestrate or curate the experiences that you're having in the room, and those are not always going to be the same as we're incorporating more of the context of the business into AI. For instance, once I bring Microsoft in, I suddenly know your name. I know a fair amount about what you like for preferences because of what's being saved in that within that side on Microsoft. If I can have access to those things, I can start to really curate your day in relation to digital signage, where I see this being a supercharging effect with AI and digital signage, because now I can give you micro experiences on every digital real estate property to make every employee feel like a valued member of the team. I can make sure to tell you happy birthday in the elevator or happy anniversary and things, along as, hey, your next meeting's on the 3rd floor, I'm going to take you where you need to go. And I think we're right on the cusp of seeing that start to really bring together the end-to-end vision.
That's so true. I think for me, in terms of support and end user looking at a display, it's hyper personalization, it's micro audiences that get content that matters to them in a time efficient manner. 8 months ago, it was nearly impossible to do it in a timely way. In the last 6 months, I can guarantee we can listen to what you say, put that into a RAG model. A RAG model is a very controlled set of data, right? We know we can make an LLM talk exactly like a brand representative or an employee, or in a very specific way with controlled data. Animate an individual, synthesize their voice speaking any popular language in about 3 seconds. So, you could walk up to any digital display with a mic on it, say anything in any popular language, and in 3 seconds, I can give you a representative of an individual talking on brand in the right way, and that could be support. How do I fix this? How do I switch this? I want to do that. It could be actually, I want to know this specific thing in this specific way, and that's a game changer actually for both tech support and delivering audience.
Who's going to be doing that? Is the technology going to be doing that, or are there consultants and specialists?
So for us, our position as an agency has to pivot. We're where I work at the RPG, we're incredibly fortunate to have 100 people working just in the digital part of the business. And no longer are they building just single entity end products. They're building automations that connect amazing solutions. So, that thing that I just talked about, in some examples, we might use OpenAI as the LLM. We might use Grok. We even use Gemini, etc., depending on the type of messaging. We might use another solution provider for the avatar synthesis and another one again for the voice synthesis. And our position as suppliers is to connect those dots for our audience, to give them the solution. Because actually, to be frank, it doesn't matter what the badge says, right? I'm probably at the wrong show to say that, but it's about the solution, right?
The bits you were talking about earlier, though, you suggested that with the work you were doing, that once you were working with the system itself worked to improve itself based on
Correct.
feedback.
Yeah, we have to be very...
So,
yeah.
how does that work?
To be very careful with that, because if we just give the RAG model unlimited knowledge, obviously with transcription, then it can go wrong. But effectively, when you interact with digital signage or speech to text, obviously everything is transcribed, right? So we can determine from that transcription what we believe did work, what we believe didn't work. Were people frustrated? Did they enjoy that experience? And then actually use that in a very controlled way to affect the very next conversation that happens with that model.
John, how do you think the services the industry can offer are going to cope with all this? There's a lot of change going on there, isn't it? Where these skills and ability to deliver the functionality are going to come from, do you reckon? I can't see.
I think it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. If you look, we recently, again, talked to a lot of resellers and vendors about this, and I think there's a move that people are telling us that you're having to move from owning a slice of an industry or a slice of the business or the experience to looking at more of a horizontal view. I think we're going to become workplace orchestration companies, not AV signage or meeting room companies. So to get the skill set from there, I think where it starts with the people in this room. It starts with leaders having to be open-minded about how their business is going to have to change. It's down to our responsibility. I mean, we have companies that we talk to. We actually have 4 personas of companies. We've got strategic optimists. Those are the guys that strategic investors who invest in opportunities. They invest in their bigger companies, and good example here, they can invest in moving really large lumps of opportunity and doing things in a new way with investment. But you've also got the very agile companies who are leading edge. And we're seeing those agile companies, 10 people companies, 15 people companies, acting like 200 people companies because they're pushing everything into AI. And that's not just your external services, it's the internal use of AI. I think personally, I'm lucky that I've moved into a 2-people company. So we can be incredibly agile and start from the ground up and introduce services into how we do things very quickly. The larger you are, the more difficult it is. So actually small, agile, SMB type companies have got the ability to do it, but they have to, I think have to self-learn. You know, it's not a situation, there's no company that's going to teach you to be an AI business.
John, you're dead on. The amount of companies I'm seeing that are out there that have major labels that they've already won as customers, yet the amount of employees they have is under 25, is increasing pretty dramatically year over year over the last couple of years. And you are going to see companies that come out of nowhere, I would like to say, hopefully, hedging my bets here, hopefully not to be, but in general, companies that are rethinking these problems that we've had and starting from scratch in the age of AI will be so far ahead of a legacy platform trying to transition to AI. It's going to be very difficult for them to make that change. You have MCP servers, which are doing a great job filling in that middle ground of, hey, I have a legacy platform that needs to talk to an AI. I put in an MCP server as that translation to take it from legacy over to being AI capable. That said, the base underlying platform is still not an AI platform. It's attaching something on a legacy platform to make it operate with an AI agent experience or an AI experience. So I think those companies that start from the ground up AI first are going to have an economies of scale factor and benefit that will quickly continue to snowball.
It's going to be, the current bet is, when are we going to see the first one-person billion-dollar unicorn company? And that's going to happen. You're going to get one person, create a company that's producing $1 billion worth of business.
So now I have to
Anybody
ask,
out here, if you tell me who you are, I would like to know you.
so how easy, John, will it be to get the pay package approved for a one-person company that's worth $1 billion? So when you say you're going to take 800 million, you're the only one voting, right? So
Easy decision.
There you go.
Decision, yeah.
Well, you need to be a strategic optimist to actually take all that on, wouldn't you?
Yeah, exactly.
I love that phrase. I think my wife was the first person to use that phrase, according to me, really. It's a way of getting around everything, isn't it, really? But fantastic. I must admit, how is this going to... I mean, the channel interface is one thing. How on earth they will cope with it, I do not know. But what occurs to me, especially with what we're seeing with broadcast and news, broadcast servers within IT departments and everything else, how is our IT departments of companies going to change to accommodate this? Because once you grow in scale and the business it becomes more strategic in the way you operate and develop these technologies, the whole makeup of an IT department is going to be changed, isn't it? Beyond what I know, certainly, to be an IT department.
Well, I think it's fair to say AV and IT have been merging, getting closer and closer over the last 5 to 10 years.
Not this deeply.
Yes,
I mean,
exactly.
really
Come on,
deep
Dan.
stuff.
That's happened. That's 10 years ago.
Trying to be polite
I think
on stage, John.
I think the banks have. I think because of the workplace and the UC stuff coming in, people have assumed it's deeper than it is. But I think AV is still very much going to walk into my company to find out how it's separate AV is from IT. The two just do not talk, and they assume I know more about AV than they do. It's a crazy situation. In the big companies that are well developed, yes, strategic thinking, joined up CTOs and so on. And I spent 10 years interviewing CIOs, none of whom could get through the board level stuff. What does my tech mean for your company, and how can we move it on by using IT? They just wasn't there. In American companies, yes. In UK and Europeans, not so much. Old-fashioned IT directors save the day by not accommodating and using new technology in the way it should have been to move their businesses forward. Thinking that strategic vision, in my experience of interviewing UK companies, is woefully inadequate. But now this might shove them into a completely new direction.
I think one of the things we're going to see, which I think is really interesting, and again, if you think about how we work as businesses, we're not going to see IT departments and HR departments and facilities departments. These used to live in silos that were very distinct, with very distinct roles. That's going to change. You're going to see that being dismantled. You're already seeing a flattening of organisations in terms of hierarchical levels. I don't know if you've seen the Moderna example. So Moderna have completely merged their IT department and their HR department. Now you see that would be really an unnatural bedfellows, IT and HR. The reason they're doing it is, what do agents do? AI agents do tasks. What do? People do tasks. Well, actually, that's the same thing as an IT-driven function doing tasks. So you pull the two together, because actually what you've got with people is managers of AI agents. So people are managing IT functionality. So they're pulling the two together. That's going to change the landscape. So who do you speak to? You used to speak to the IT person or the AV person. You're going to speak to somebody completely different who's got a responsibility to deliver a service across a whole organisation.
I think AVs bring in an equality to skill sets as well. Like we're seeing people like super enabled, super powered. Yesterday, one of the team at DRPG was drawing an environment in Unreal, and we needed to export it a certain way to put live images into this digital environment. Anyway, without boring you too much on that, somebody that wasn't skilled in how to draw in Unreal found the solution and advised the expert on how to achieve that end result. For us, what we find is that actually IT becomes about risk mitigation and risk management with interaction with AI, but actually the skills are being leveled both in AV and in IT. There's a quality there in the amount that an individual can achieve that's empowered by AI.
My one worry, it's interesting, risk management. You know, it's a lot of the banks are going ahead of everybody, aren't they? They've even got rid of the title AV in a lot of their managers. But this through it will keep AV off the network unless there's some strategic planning going on. What worries me slightly is that AI might go past AV and just merge with IT and actually control very different functionality to the AV functions we hope it will do. And therefore it'll improve the running of IT systems, but will it help AV develop in the direction it should be developing to be more personal in the way it delivers the services and more intuitive in the way it helps develop itself?
I think, Jason, you've got some
Am I being too
examples of that,
pessimistic
haven't you?
here?
To be fair, though, it requires both sides of the house to complete that vision. You have to include IT in that because your admin portal, where all of your, where all of the credentials are for your rooms, your individuals, what the profiles are, you have to have access to that to create to create a personalized experience in the space. So while, yes, we have to develop the correct triggers, shall we say, to curate the actions in the room on the devices side, the IT part is going to inform what is the right end goal for this room. If Clive, you're coming into the room and I know you hate when sunlight's in the room, then I'm going to bring down the shades for you moving forward. But if I don't have your IT profile, I don't know to do that for you. So you need both to complete the workflow.
I think one of the key areas for anyone who's in the AV market at the moment and ultimately looking at how they can embrace AI and get use of it today is absolutely the support space. Within the Signage Live business over the last 18 months, we moved from a traditional ticketing-based system to an AI-first platform, and we're now seeing over 60% point of contact resolutions from the initial AI bot. And basically, there's still that escalation to a human, but ultimately the question then gets asked by the system is, what could I have actually done to prevent you having to have that conversation as a human? And you've got this virtuous cycle, and it's improving every day. It's still the polls that we're doing with the customers that are interacting with this actually see this as being hugely beneficial. They're not saying, I need to speak to someone, because they're getting the answers quicker. Those answers are being refined every single time. And I think that's one area in terms of, from our point of view, it doesn't mean we're getting rid of people. It means we can then allow those people to work on tier 2, tier 3 problems and provide white glove service to the customers that matter. So that's definitely an area. And those tools and platforms exist today. And with a bit of training and educating them on your knowledge base and your articles and your handbooks, you can be up and running with an AI solution for support in a very short period of time.
Because AV was always prided itself on how personal service it delivered in the early days, wasn't it? When applications and demand for those applications and what they produce was much simpler than it is today. I mean, it's become so complex. Inevitably, we're moving into a realm of intelligent automation that helps the basic functionality work more efficiently, which is a given if IT systems themselves worked, assuming, of course, that everything was integrated properly. And of course, it isn't in a lot of cases.
Yeah, and I think that's the next stage. It talks to what John was mentioning regarding the flattening of the organisations and big organisations now looking at AI first. And I think the next step is the whole agentic world. And I, personally see a world where, you get a completely operatorless digital signage platform, because what we're actually doing is we are receiving content which has been created, prescribed inside an organisation. We are delivering media to a device. That device is telling you how it's performing, how optimal it is, and we're passing that back. So I think the idea of digital signage being a silo outside of other aspects of the business is going away. It's being, it started off with just things like integrating POS data and getting, pricing on a menu board, but we're now talking about the full operation of a signage solution sat within the core business logic and not as a separate service. And that's the trend I see is going to happen over the next couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, digital signage always was a window into the business, wasn't it? And now
Absolutely, yeah.
We've reached that point now where the technology has advanced enough, even though we may feel as though we can't control it in the way we'd like, because we don't know quite how it's developing and whether we have the skills to not stand in the way of how it's developing. And then there's a control issue of whether it's developing in the right way. I mean, and then you've got personalisation coming on top of that. God,
But no, can I ask a quick question?
The bandwagon
because
stuff.
I think there's some really good points here, and we all sort of talk quite grandly about this whole thing called AI. Who's actually written and created their own agent in this room? 1, 2. I know you have, Jane. It's really interesting because I think it's baffling. To me, it was totally baffling what this thing called AI meant and what do I do about it. And it's really interesting. How easy was it to create an agent? Yeah, super easy. So there's a couple of things I would say as takeaways. Think about this. One is go and create your own agent. If you're running Copilot or ChatGPT, create your own agent. The first one I did was, my wife and I like to go on holidays. So we did a little agent saying what we liked, restaurants we liked. I wrote it, so it had no museums in, no art galleries, lots of restaurants, lots of bars. Create your little agent, and then you say, I'd like to go for 2 weeks in wherever, and it'll do you an itinerary. Honestly, go and do that. It's so easy to do, and it gives you confidence. Because we all talk about AI as this kind of big grand thing, and applicationally, really important. But if we don't start doing things in it, we don't learn how to start applying it to our work life. And we've got the 3A strategy that came from many conversations. So the first thing as an organisation is do an assessment. Where will you use AI? Kind of the analogy we've got. If you went to a country that hadn't got electricity and said, here's electricity, go and do it. I have no idea. And we do that with AI. We say, here's AI. And you're going, I don't know what to do with it. So assess where you can use it in your business. Then pick an application that you can do something with and change the business with. You should add a champion to that to champion that application. And there's some great applications here. You can deploy a signage live solution. Really good for corporate comms. You can, when NetSpeak's available to everybody, you can use a NetSpeak.
We are available. First available this month. Come on. Shameless plug.
You can buy that. So, and the most important thing, by the way, the most important thing in an organisation is make sure you've got an adoption program. Make sure, and then go through the cycle again. So you get one, assess what you need, deploy an application, make sure you adopt it correctly, and go through the cycle again. Do that and sit in here in a year's time, and you'll all be writing your own agents. You'll have successful implementation of AI solutions. That, by the way, 2 or 3% of companies will do it. 97% of companies won't. The ones that do will be in front.
Did anybody notice that OpenAI launched a web browser yesterday?
Yep.
Has anybody downloaded that on their Mac yet? It's on Mac at the moment, not on Windows just yet, but I think it'll be quickly. That has agents built into the workflow of the web browser. You don't have to create anything. You literally just put it into agent mode. And instead of saying, how do I, these are the ingredients I've got at home, say, this is what I've got in my cupboard, I want to make this. Instead of just giving you text back, it will go and buy the remaining groceries that you need and get them delivered to your house if you need it to. The agent is effectively taking actions versus just interacting with, language, and it's those actions that actually matter, in truth. So echo what you're saying. If you've got Copilot, just go to Google and put Copilot Studio in. Then you'll log into your corporate account, and then it's got a workflow to build agents. If you've got OpenAI, anything else, it's a similar process. When you get an opportunity, download the browser if you're able to, the OpenAI launch. Use it with caution because, okay, it is OpenAI, it is AI. Use it at your own risk, but absolutely, agents are the game changer for your day-to-day workflow.
Yeah.
All of your employers would like us to say not on your corporate devices.
Yeah.
I was just about to say that, actually, yeah. I mean, the point of all this is that I think it's a good idea, that, John, actually. Do some quick win solutions on something basic, build a bit of basic knowledge up about it, and then go forward. I mean, in fact, this stuff is supposed to be, there so you don't have to do that. But I think with any new technology, it's good to boost your own confidence in its ability to begin with. And then end users will probably think about that. Let's see how that box solution works, whether this particular tweak does what it says it does, and then start to build confidence up in it. It depends what type of company you are, or how much money you've got, how expensive it's going to be. We don't know of that, how much consultancy will be involved. I can see a whole stream of consultancy coming out of this about how business operate, where you're coming from, evaluating the technology. God, it's endless,
I won't mention the name out of respect for the consulting agency, but there's currently a media article going around about an agency that charged close to $500,000 for a report they turned over to a customer that was completely inaccurate, full of hallucinations, and was written completely by AI. So the company had to go back and refund a fair amount of that project off of it. So you're going to see, you got to be careful. You can't over-rely on anything. Just like if you hire a new person into your organization, you need to stick with them, make sure they're trained up, make sure that they're doing the right things, check in on them over the course of time to make sure they haven't gone completely astray. You do have to do that with AI. You got to keep it in line and make sure to go back and build that in from the get-go, that it's going to monitor itself and make sure not to go off in a left direction.
Yeah, which leads me on to my next question as a former IT bloke with an IT hat on. How soon can we expect the tools and the methodologies that we usually rely on in conventional IT environments to start to come to give us some standardization and cast iron evidence that what we're playing with is not just experimental, but has been proved, and then we can go to the next step and want to learn something meaningful about it? Or is that a long way off?
Yesterday.
Don't say that, John.
I think the issue with standardization and accreditation is the speed at which the technology is moving. That's the problem with.
There's no way to standardize right now within AI development because just in the load balancing on your processing and architecture and stuff, every week is a major new breakthrough. Like 2 weeks ago, 2 or 3 weeks ago, we got access to a new type of data processing center called wafer-based data processing. We saw 30-second reductions in major processing requests just by that one change. Those weren't available 3-6 months ago, and yet we're able to take advantage of it week over week. It's just moving so quickly. I've been in this industry 20 years now at this point. I've never seen, it's like what I'm sure some of us would recognize from when the internet showed up, where it was just, this is a whole new means of communication and everything's going to radically change. This is that same sort of thing where AI is kind of like the internet. Nobody went around, to John's point the other day, nobody went around saying, I need to internet everywhere.
If I may contradict you, that AI isn't like the internet. There were too many, it was relatively new and untried, whereas there's an awful lot of baggage coming into the AI world and things are changing very quickly. An enormous lot of investment, potential risk, high risk involved. We're facing a bubble from the mere investment into these companies in the first place. And things are changing so quickly. Globalization has made businesses very fragile in the environment in which they operate. We're relying a lot more on technology than we used to. So any kind of minor change, no matter how we think predictably it might be coming towards us, is a huge risk.
Yeah, but I think, but that's the.
We need
we are, though, Clive.
a bit of confidence and support and
I think
reassurance, John.
We're at the bleeding edge of a technology. We want risk, we want change, and we do not want standardization at the moment. I think standardization would be, like in any industry, it would just start to put...
No, but moving towards standardization, we can't not have something standard we can all use.
You've got security and you've got companies like Microsoft building ecosystems within tenants that protect data as much as you can and protect processes and create a standardized environment to work within. And they're doing a great job at that, and there's other platforms that do a similar job. However, as an industry, until we got any sense of what's going to be the art of the possible, as these guys said, it's going to be impossible, almost impossible to work out what standards
We've
are.
never moved at this rate as quickly
Never
before.
happened before.
I think the key thing is that if you adopt the guardrails and the frameworks that have been put in place by the major players, we're predominantly Amazon based and we work with their framework.
How did that work this week?
Major players at the moment.
UK, thankfully. So we're actually multi-region.
Well, the major players at the moment are attracting large sums of money in an investment game who are competing against each other. It's the sort of cock race at the moment. Who's got the biggest one, isn't it? Really, let's
Well, there
face
is a
it.
bit of that.
And lots of tales saying how unreliable this stuff is, that they're merely getting headlines.
Yeah.
In the period of false news and God knows what else going on, where is the reliable evaluation of what these things can really do?
Yeah, well,
Changing by the minute.
I think the key thing is at a practical level when we're building product and providing it for our customers is that there's always the human in the loop. There's always the element of, are you actually testing it against the responses you were expecting? And I know Dan and the team will be doing that as well. So I think it just goes back to proceed with caution. Don't just throw this out there and use it in a real world application without fully understanding what you're actually providing and actually having the guardrails and the controls around that.
And I think at least for the next couple of years, you're also going to see a bit of division internally where, yes, there are certain companies like Microsoft that want to be able to say, hey, we can do all things for all people. Okay, but if I am one system that has access to everything and can do all things through just one system, how do I pull a plug to turn you off if something bad happens?
Aviation side of things, we've had that recent thing where all the airports shut down inside. That's how dangerous.
Exactly. So I think what you're going to see is there's going to be the devices, which will still have their own cloud, their own ability to see their, all of their brands' devices. Those things will still stay true. Please cut me out off
No,
the
you're
feet here,
fine.
John, if you think differently.
It's
So you're going to have that. You're going to have that admin, where all your user profiles are, where all of your assets live, things like that. And then you're going to have this middleware, which NetSpeak feels we're falling into this space of this orchestration of you want to have all your credentials and understanding. We need to access that, and we need to be able to trigger what's happening on the devices. But you kind of want us to be a separate middle layer so that if it, for any reason, AI starts to act a little weird, I can't drop you in the elevator like it's Tower of Terror because you missed a deadline or something. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, that's an nth degree, but...
It's like a live broadcast. It's quite dangerous for obvious reasons to have live, so there's a delay, just in case that somebody acts inappropriately or what have you. At least you've got that buffer of that delay to go.
Yes.
Right, this pause that
We've
bit,
been here
or
before.
edit,
We've
or
been here
live
before.
edit.
Every technology leap has inherent risk and has people looking for problems. I mean, it kind of annoys when people say, well, AI hallucinates. So great, when do you go, every time I go onto the internet and Google something, it's true then, is it? Obviously not. So the world we've got to live in has got to slowly adjust to where we're going to be going to, which is it's a faster moving, more flexible environment, where I think it's going to be, again, where we started, the responsibility for the guidelines, the guardrails, and how we construct services for our clients. A lot of it's going to sit with us. It's going to sit with the channel person who is responsible for delivering that solution set. And we're going to have to, it's a new world.
Yeah, and I think going back to your point regarding, accreditation and guidelines, I think there's definitely a responsibility to have that openness towards what we are doing as well. And I think, we're ISO 27001 and SOC 2 compliant, which is great. But I think more importantly, we do live and breathe that. It's not just a sprint every time it comes up for a renewal. And that's something we do share. We completely disclose with any particular customer under NDA exactly how we're operating, what we're doing with their data, where it resides, and giving customers optionality. The whole idea with what we're trying to do is provide both SaaS and on-premise propositions so that people can determine their level of risk. And obviously, the more you move away from an online platform, the more away you move away from the immediacy of an AI solution. But it doesn't mean you can't still benefit from that. It just might have to have a hybrid proposition. So I think it's just being aligned with the customer, not trying to enforce any one solution on them.
Yeah, good point.
And I will say, with AI, we have to remove our expectations. I think a good example of this is OpenAI has hired the original designer of the iPhone to build a OpenAI phone. And he's come out and said, it doesn't have a keyboard and it doesn't have a screen. So try to wrap your head around a phone that doesn't have a screen or a keyboard in it. But that's the way folks are trying to look at AI, is completely change the interface or the interaction, because the way that this technology works allows for you to develop differently. And so some of the things that we're so used to being about dashboards and having every single metric listed out, that's probably going to fall away here over the next 5 years a bit. Of course, you'll still want key indicators, but a lot of that is more synthesized. I want the summary. I want the key points that are coming out of this, and AI can really leverage that.
I know you're going to wrap, but if you think about it, Microsoft, Satya Nadella at Microsoft has said you will not be living in an environment where you'll be selling you applications. There'll be no Word, there'll be no Excel, there'll be no PowerPoint. You will be asking for an output, or even AI will be suggesting an output, depending on what you want. So you will not live in an environment where you have to look at spreadsheets anymore. You just look at the information, and the information will be delivered to you. That's mind-bending again. I mean, I'm so used to opening my Outlook up on my Excel spreadsheet when I want to do a presentation, my PowerPoint. That'll go completely. And you'll be sitting there in a non-application environment with your non-screen, non-microphone.
Let me be clear. I don't know what the value prop is to a phone without a screen yet, but I'm interested to check it out next year when it comes out.
Yeah.
It'd be nice, John. I
To be
dream
fair-
of that
to be
world.
fair, I
actually.
think Nick's wearing it.
That's true. It's probably,
Did you see there was one that was actually launched, wasn't there? They launched a phone without a screen and a keyboard, and it actually, unfortunately, ended up failing. It was, you hold your hand up and it projects onto your hand the context, and it was like a little badge you wear. But unfortunately, I don't actually think they thought bold enough. I didn't offer enough to customers, and it flopped.
Well, you've also seen Meta now has the connector off the wrist to go with the
Absolutely,
glass.
to navigate in their lens, yeah, absolutely.
Which is very, again, completely
Dan-
just changing the user interface and how you...
Dan, was that Johnny Ive who made that remark, was it?
Yeah, I think so.
I'd love to know what Johnny Ive thinks of AI. That'd be an interesting one, wouldn't it? Because he's moved to an interesting consultancy now that looks at things differently. And he's plugging into AI, I'd noticed, but I haven't read too much more about it. A guy I would love to interview and get on a program if there was one. Now, we could go on this for ages. You may have more questions, actually. But I'm going to move the microphone around. If you want to ask any questions, by all means, be my guest. We're running slightly over time, but it's all right. You're here.
Yeah.
Thanks, Clive. Thanks, panel. Very interesting. My name is James Conlon of NIVAC. I would just like to ask if you can hear me okay.
Yep.
Would the adoption of AI in AV be a gradual, measured process, or will it be a rapid and disruptive process?
So, at least in the experiences that I'm seeing today within, the management and monitoring, it's going to start slow and then increase pretty quickly. So what that means is you're going to probably see a proof of concept stage of, hey, we want to prove out that this can actually do what we say it's going to do, and we're going to do maybe 10% of rooms or something to get that done. And then what you'll see is very quickly the AI starts to understand the rooms and can start to save the templates on its own, can start to build off what you have. So very quickly, the rate of increased rooms or spaces that can be enrolled starts to take off. So that first chunk of we need to go in, understand your stack, and understand how these things interconnect takes a little bit of time. Once the company gets there and has their feet underneath them, snowballing that becomes very, very simple.
I think from our point of view, James, good to see you. What we're seeing is that, first of all, it starts off with, as you said, Dan, small use cases and developing trust. And I think as people then trust the process, trust what's being created, what AI is being used for, then they will look for other applications inside the business. And I think the snowball effect will be then the case studies that follow that. No one ever wants to be a pioneer for fear of arrows in their back. And I think there is an element in the corporate world is once we get past those stages, then you get the fear of missing out and people chasing the pack in terms of making sure they don't get left behind from the advantages that AI bring. So I think to that point, it will be slow, but it will snowball.
I think it will appear really quick. It is actually slow. It was a year ago that I was switching content that my audience are watching using AI. It was October 2024. So it is actually happening slowly. But you don't know that we're necessarily doing that. And all of a sudden the industry is going to be hit with, well, use it or you're behind. So it will appear to be really quick. But as a matter of fact, it's coming a bit at a time.
James, I'll give you a typical me answer, which is A, I don't know. I mean, I don't think anybody knows. I think it's going to be surprising. I think it's going to be slower than we think in some aspects, but super quick in others. There's also a bifurcation between own use and selling solutions. I think own use in AI is going to be really quick. I think companies are going to adopt, and those who adopt AI solutions internally, whether that's responding to RFPs, using it internally for your CRM, lots of applicational places where you can buy applications now to do it, will put those companies in front of other companies. So that's going to be super quick. In fact, it's now. But in terms of actually selling solutions that are AI based, I agree with the guys. I think that it's going to be a slow build, much more your Moore's law. It's going to be that quick this year, that next year, and my arms aren't long enough the year after.
Completely agree, Joe.
Any more questions at all? Thanks, James, because that was a very good question, that. Yeah. Well, we're just beyond our allotted time. By all means, feel free to chat to anyone here. Then the most knowledgeable people, you get the most practical element of implementing this stuff and knowing about AI we've got on the panel here. So I think, I think we covered a hell of a big area today. And hopefully, if you've got any kind of practical solution questions, then they're the people for you. Thank you very much, everyone, for being on the panel, putting up with me for one. That's always a courageous thing to do. I'll now shut up, let everybody get on to their next stand visit, and thank you all for sitting and bearing with us for
Thank you.
an hour.
Thank you.
Cheers.